You know that feeling as a kid when you wake up completely refreshed? Don't you wish you could have that every single day as an adult? Hello Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers, this is Zach with Secrets of Longevity.com. That feeling of being profoundly rejuvenated and waking up without any latent feelings of wanting to keep sleeping or feelings of just not wanting to get out of bed even if you're not able to sleep further is something that a lot of people have going on in the modern world today. And this is directly linked in with the adrenals and adrenal function, and in Chinese medicine this can be related to that latent Jing energy. So the term Jing, if you're not familiar with it, is basically meaning that core foundational energy in the body. And this is the what we typically think of as energy being qi. It's sort of the substance or the quality that is used to describe being in between energy and physical matter. So this can reside in the fluids in the body, and it can get very complex if I try and describe it all. In Indian terms they called it ojas. But this energy, when it's abundant, when you aren't tapping into it for energy, such as the overuse of stimulants in your daily life, without using a lot of reserve energy, and specifically when you're running off the Jing as opposed to running off the qi, which is the energy we get from breathing, the food we eat, and normal life if we're living in balance. When we're continually tapping into that, that's when we're running high on cortisol, adrenaline, basically in a stressed out state, which everyone is, and especially at this time of year with the holidays, people are running around like crazy, trying to get stuff done. Perhaps if you're a student or you're younger, you're lucky in the sense that you have some time to relax at this point. And this is a perfect time to work on rebuilding this quality within yourself. And even people who work, they're going to have some holidays coming up, whether it's one day or a couple days. This time you obviously are going to be spending with family, and it's going to have its own stresses at home, but try and get some of these things in and try and take the opportunity to really catch up on sleep, first of all. If your body wants to sleep longer, let it. Don't be concerned about sleeping the day away, because that mentality of losing time by sleeping is irrelevant, because if you're going to be cutting your sleep short, you're going to be cutting your life short. So you may as well sleep as long as you need to, and then be awake and vitalized and rejuvenated, so that time you do have is top quality and isn't spent just waiting till you get to sleep that night to catch up on the sleep, but then you wake up again to that alarm and you never completely catch up on it. So if you need to go through a week of sleeping 10 hours each day or more, go for it. People who are very athletic know that their bodies need more time to recover. Anyone that's being very active in a business pursuit or a career pursuit or school or any sort of high intensity of focus, whether it's mental or physical, is going to need a little more than 8 hours of sleep a night. If you're on a very sort of laid-back routine, that can involve 40 or more hours a week of work, but if you're just able to do that without getting into that sort of hyper state, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we don't always want to be in that state. Just like athletes are never always at the top of their shape, they have their seasons. So if you're not at that point in your life where you're at that place, you need to be allowing yourself around 8 hours of sleep a day. Some people say it's more, and if it's you specifically need that, then yes, but if you're just living life like the average person, 8 hours is around the amount you need. 7 is getting towards the low end. Personally, I find when I only get 7 hours sleep for several days in a row, I'm quite tired. Routinely, I get between 8 and 9 hours of sleep at night. And lately, I've been doing certain things to really enhance the sleep I do get, so I wake up extremely refreshed, and it's not a drag for me to get out of bed. So we know for certain that chronic sleep deprivation lowers all hormone levels, basically throws the whole system out of balance, and in the long run this accelerates aging. I don't need to give you references for this, you can look this up, it's very common knowledge. You can just look up sleep deprivation and then add in any hormone name, and you're going to get tons of results on any search engine for that. So for example, melatonin, which is the main sort of master hormone for all the entire body, for the entire endocrine system, that's produced at night, and for the optimal amount of that to be produced, which is in the sort of deepest part of your sleep, you need to have a pitch black room that you're in. Any degree of lighting is going to start to degrade that hormone, and in turn, if you were to wake up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom, or you have to do something, or you just tend to wake up, the best thing to do is not turn on any lights when you're going to do those things you need to do. Basically, taking in the light through your eyes basically tells your brain to just turn off all the melatonin production. It all gets destroyed, and you might be able to fall back asleep later, but you're not going to have anywhere near the same amount produced. So same thing, turn off all electronics in your bedroom, or put tape over the little glowing dots on them. So you don't need an alarm clock that's glowing the lights. Just have one that you can either cover, that's going to be loud enough to wake you up if you do need an alarm clock, or make sure it's also far enough away from your bed that you're not getting the latent EMFs from it. Obviously, it's not ideal to have TVs and computers in bedrooms. The best thing to do is also have a grounding sleeping pad, which allows for the contact of the skin through silver lining to the grounding rod of the house, or through to a grounding rod that goes out your window down into the earth. Another good technique to incorporate is the use of yin Jing tonic herbs. I've spoken about this in length in the past, but I'll go over some of them again. I've lately been taking larger doses of Hushu, and I've just found that extra bit of deepness to my sleep that is a really wonderful thing to experience. So Hushu is, again, the number one thing I'd recommend for that. You can always find links for any of these things I'm talking about below. Take that as an extract, that's the easiest way, but you can always get the whole root as well on mountain rose herbs. There's also Romania. That is an herb that you can brew up in a tea or make a tincture out of, and that is also a yin Jing tonic blood builder. And even just taking that, I've eaten that straight in the middle of the day, and if it, for some reason energetically, every time I do that, I'll just eat one of those flattened sort of pancake type things that are black, and you just feel this profound cooling sensation that just enters your body, and it's cooling and calming. It does have a blood warming quality to it, so it's not like it's going to throw you out of balance. It is a yin Jing tonic. It's very great for long-term daily use. Another really important one is goji berries. The use of them in daily cooking and raw foods and smoothies or anything you can put them in is great, just a handful a day. Those can be taken whole, but ideally you want to have them soaked or blended up, just so that because when you eat them just straight as they are dried, personally I find that they don't digest as well. Not that you'd get digestive trouble, but you're not going to be able to totally break those down because you can only chew them up so much. And so if you were to soak them first and then eat them, or put them in a smoothie, they're going to get much more broken up by your teeth or by your digestive system or by the blender. And then other things, if you suffer from a lot of stress, is the use of holy basil, and that is very calming to cortisol levels. That would be more of a Shen tonic. And then another good yin tonic is gynostemma tea. So you can find any of those things at the links below. There's many other yin tonics and other beneficial things for sleep, but those are just a few I'm covering. Another really great thing which I've used in certain scenarios, I don't like to do it all the time because it is a bit uncomfortable, and that is getting yourself completely past being horizontal. So as a species that walks upright, we produce up to 3 times or more adrenaline than animals that walk on all fours, which is virtually all animals. And so that takes a lot for our adrenals to be able to produce that all the time. So when we relax, when we want to sort of recuperate, it's good to get horizontal, completely horizontal, even getting rid of the pillow. But if we were to even go slightly, if we were horizontal this way, this is our head, if we go even slightly more inverted, verging on getting inverted, then it completely shuts off that adrenaline production, and in the sleeping state, this allows for much deeper sleep. You can always just do it slightly without affecting too much the comfort of your sleep. And you can do that by raising up one end of your bed with, tons of books or something to put under there to prop it up. And I've done that actually. There was one time I had to take a really early morning flight, and I just was not on a schedule to fall asleep early enough. And I'd been packing and stuff, so I only had an opportunity to sleep for 2 hours. And so I shoved the suitcase I had just packed under one end of my bed, and I slept. And I did pretty well for just having 2 hours. I obviously caught up the next day, but that allowed me to function and get through the airport with great ease. So the idea of also when you're sleeping normally, even if you don't want to elevate one end of your bed, is to not sleep with a pillow. So the act of having your head elevated is going to keep a very low level of adrenaline being produced by your kidneys, or rather by the adrenals, which sit on top of the kidneys. So one thing that I've gotten used to, and I just hate even using a pillow under my head now, is to sleep on my side. I personally can't sleep on my back. That's one thing you could do, because your head will be flat and your whole spine will be in line, and this really helps with back problems, neck pains, and everything else like that. But you have to get used to it. Pillows are addictive, and sometimes I do actually find in the middle of the night I move the pillow around and I end up sleeping on it, and I wake up and my neck is literally sore. So it's something you get used to, and the more you shift towards no pillow under your head, the better your sleep it is and the better your neck will feel and the muscles throughout your neck and back. So what I personally do is I sleep on my front, but sort of turn slightly, and I have a pillow under my body on one side, which kind of keeps me from being like this, because if you're lying like this, if this was the bed, your head's going to be like this, it is going to hurt. But if your body's slightly propped up with a pillow here, your head's going to be not completely like that. It's going to be turned slightly, but that shouldn't cause you any discomfort. It doesn't for me. And your whole spine's in alignment. It's not crooked like it would with a pillow. Or you can always, if you can sleep on your side, you've got your shoulder will almost conform into your neck. And that's another way I've fallen asleep at times as well. So once you get used to that, you find how much of a key that is for deep sleep and with preventing shoulder, neck, back pain, and again, increasing the deepness of that sleep, because you're going to be shutting off the adrenals just that extra bit so that they're completely dormant at night, and you can really shift right over into the more internal, rejuvenating state that you need to be in when asleep. By the way, this is a painting I did in high school. I just got it back recently, so I'm going to be putting it up on the wall at some point. I wanted to answer a few questions about this that I had been getting on Facebook, because I had posted some information around this, and that's what inspired me to do this video. And one question was, what can you do about that, about not getting enough sleep? And that's basically what this video has answered. Another question was, what happens when you don't get enough sleep? And like I was saying, that melatonin production, I kind of got sidetracked there and did the whole video without finishing that point, but when melatonin production's shut down or reduced from lack of deep enough sleep, you're going to affect all the other hormones. So you're going to have higher cortisol levels, which is the low-level stress hormone. Adrenaline is the high-stress hormone. Cortisol is the constant sort of stress level that happens in a lot of people's lives. And that puts you in a catabolic state, meaning your body has a lot of trouble building muscle, and so you're going to be tearing it down. You're going to have increased glucose absorption difficulties that can, in the long run, lead to problems with blood sugar. You're also going to have lower testosterone levels, so you're going to become less anabolic. Like I was saying, catabolic, that's the cause of cortisol. Anabolism from the testosterone and other androgens is a good thing for both men and women. That's the muscle building state. And we know that testosterone is connected with virtually every chronic disease, and low levels of it predisposes you to them. Then another question was, how come sometimes you can sleep 10 hours and feel really groggy, whereas you can sleep 7 hours and feel great? So you really have to also think that if you're young, like say puberty age, there's a lot of research that says teenagers need a lot more sleep than they generally get, and that's more than the 8-hour average that most adults are sort of required biologically. And there's also circadian rhythms. So teenagers have these circadian rhythms that dictate, if you wake up in the middle of it, and this is adults too, if you wake up in the middle of the circadian rhythm, you're going to feel groggy because your body wants to finish that sort of sleep cycle. It's a complex thing that I don't completely understand myself. It's not something I'm totally getting into researching, because it's a vast, vast field. But if you wake up right at the end of a cycle, you're going to feel great. If you wake up in the middle, you're not going to feel that good. So actually sometimes even 5 hours of sleep you can feel fine waking up at the end of that, if it happens to coincide right with the end of the cycle. However, your body is wanting perhaps another whole cycle or another 2 cycles, and although you might have a harder time waking up in the middle of a cycle 2 hours later, you are going to feel much different later on in the day once your body's adapted, because it's missed out on 2 hours of hormone production and rejuvenation. And specifically teenagers, they're going to wake up groggy in many cases no matter what happens, because you've got the higher human growth hormone levels, the higher anabolism, and all that stuff with the changes taking place in the body. And especially athletes, they're going to be waking up groggy anyways, because that groggy feeling just makes you want to stay in bed. You have to know the difference between being burnt out, your adrenals being burnt out, and just having high androgens and high anabolism going on in the body. Some of the top level athletes are sleeping over 12 hours a day, and then they rest as much as they can, as much as their day allows. And that's just because there's so much repair that needs to go on. So if you're weightlifting and you feel groggy when you wake up, you can just make sure you get a nap in there sometime in the day. Getting a nap in after a workout is great as well. And that's just your body repairing itself. So you also have to think that specifically whether your body's repairing and building, or if it is actually adrenal burnout that's causing you to be groggy in the morning. Similar feeling, you just have to sort of learn to delineate between the two. If you're over 23 and you're not that active, and you're waking up really tired even after 7 or 8 hours, you definitely want to look at really upping the yin Jing tonics in your life and your dietary plan, and really doing a whole lifestyle overhaul to really get things in balance so you're not waking up so burnt out. One other quick note is if you're oversleeping too much and you're not that active, you're sleeping over 10 hours a day, you're possibly at risk of depression. That's a symptom of depression, is oversleeping, being tired. And yes, it's related to adrenals, but there's a lot more brain chemistry and neurotransmitter issues that are going on, and you should really work with holistic health professional, in my opinion, but always get checked by a doctor as well. Depression is a very difficult thing to work on yourself on. It's always best to work with someone else. There's risks involved, obviously, with outlook on life, and you can always look at setting up a consultation with myself, although I'm not a licensed health professional. You can always find links below to find out where you can set that up. So with that, check out the links below for everything I mentioned in the video, and let me know what you thought. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't done that before, and take care and embrace life without limits.